This is a scene from the book, from the opening of the book, where Max is doing his stage act and he's been handcuffed, wrapped in chains, put inside a sack, and the sack is going to be lowered down into a big tank of ice cold water, and Max has got to get out of the sack, the chains and the handcuffs, underwater, and get back to the surface before effectively he kills himself. Max could feel the tension too, see the worry in the faces of the people watching. This was a very risky trick, but he didn't let that unsettle him. The first rule of escapology was to stay calm. Max had had that drummed into him by his father from the first moment he'd started learning tricks. Stay calm and never panic. The human body could only function in extreme conditions if you had complete control over it. These two men, Max said, are on standby in case of an emergency. If I'm not out in 30 seconds, they'll come in and drag me to safety. Consuela lifted up the sides of the sack over Max's head and pulled the drawstring tight. A hook on a wire descended from the gantry above the stage, and Consuela attached the sack to it. At the same time, a large clock, a giant stopwatch really, was lowered into place over the tank. The clock had only one hand, a second hand, that would be activated the moment the sack containing Max entered the water. It was a clever psychological touch, focusing the audience's attention on the time factor, the 30 seconds ticking by as Max struggled to free himself from his bonds. It was already starting to work. People were leaning forward anxiously, their faces taut, their eyes staring at the sack as it was winched into the air. They all knew that this was a truly dangerous trick. Handcuffs and chains were one thing, ice-cold liquid quite another. You could cheat with locks, but there was no way of cheating with freezing water. Max had to hold his breath. He had to survive the cold. The sack swung into position over the tank, swaying on the end of the winch. But inside it, things were not going according to plan. By now, Max should already have had the handcuffs and chains off. He should have had them off before the sack even left the floor. There'd be no time once he was in the tank. The second he hit the water, he knew the cold would begin to paralyse him, make it impossible for him to tackle the locks. At all costs, he had to be free of his bonds before then. But he couldn't get to the key. He hadn't deceived his helpers or the audience. The spare key to the handcuffs and the padlock, the same key for both, wasn't hidden on his body. It was hidden in his body. Over the years, Max had perfected the art of regurgitation, of swallowing an object and then bringing it back up again at will. He could swallow something small, a key or a coin for example, and then contract and control the muscles of his stomach, an alimentary canal, the tube that ran from his mouth to his stomach, to recover the object. He'd done this trick many times in practice. He never attempted an escape in public unless he'd completed it successfully at least 20 times in private. But tonight, for some inexplicable reason, Max couldn't get the key up. He tried twice already and failed both times.